Hello, everybody, and welcome to part 3 of Discovering Your Purpose. I'm here with my beautiful wife, and she is just breaking it down. She's been a blessing to me in this last 2. If you haven't seen the past 2 videos, go and find them. They're great. The first one was you have to try new things, right? You don't discover your purpose and then try new things. You try new things, and then you discover your purpose by knowing what you're not good at. Number 2,
or you are good at.
Correct. You connect the dots. There's things happening in your life that not only preparing you for what's now, but for what's next. That's a great phrase that you shared, that your suffering is somebody else's survival guide. All right, that's number 2. And number 3, today, we're going to talk about what problem you were created to solve. So take it away, Kathy. Hit us with number 3.
All right. So number 3, like Roger mentioned, is what problem were you created to solve? Yesterday, or the last time, the last time that I spoke with you guys, I mentioned that when I was 14, I almost went into foster care. There was a few turbulent years after that. Pretty much my whole teenage years were kind of rough. Honestly, if you were to ask me to repeat my teenage years, if you would pay me, hey, go back and be a teenager again, I would tell you no, thank you. I wouldn't do it again. I was never in the cool crowd. I was the nerd. I was not the prettiest girl. I was never the one that was picked, by the boys or the handsome boys or any of the above. I was always kind of like, I guess, but I was a terrible teenager, had it really rough. And those were really difficult years of my life. So you can imagine how I was super duper surprised when I felt that God was asking me for the very first time, Kathy, this is the problem that you were created to solve. So let me tell you the story. Roger and I had just gotten married. We had come back from our honeymoon. And as soon as we got back from our honeymoon, Roger was assigned to a brand new church plant. This is a church. If you've ever worked with a church plant, people have to kind of figure out what their roles are, start from zero. You're starting new, Sabbath school classrooms, and you're trying to figure out like, what are your ministries and who's going to lead them and so forth. And this was a situation at this new church. So I show up on a Sabbath morning. We had only been maybe into our church plant about a month. And I show up on Saturday morning, and one of the Sabbath school coordinator or the superintendent, she comes literally running up to me, and she's just like, Kathy, or Sister Kathy. And she was in like panic, scared, freaking out mode. She said, I need you to help me. And I was like, what? I was like, kill a rat. There's a bat in the church. What do you need me to help you with? Because she was so scared. She said, yeah. Well, if you remember that church. Yeah. Yes. So I walked in, she said, follow me, follow me. So I walked into the church, and she still hasn't told me what it is that she's so scared about. And she looks at me and she points. She says, I want you to look up there. And I looked. This church had a balcony, a very big second floor balcony. It kind of wrapped around the whole church. It was a pretty large church. And I looked up there in the balcony close to this huge organ that was up there. And she says to me, do you see them? And I was like, them. And it was a group of teenagers. And she says, do you see them? That's a group. That's a teenager. And she said the thing that everyone says to me. Nobody wants to work with the teenagers. Nobody wants to be with the teenagers. Yeah. Again, here I am connecting the dots, but for a totally different reason. And I looked at her and I'm like, what makes you think I'm the one who should be with a teenager? She said, please, 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 please help me out. I need you to help me with this problem. So after you heard me mention that I was a terrible teenager. So I'm thinking to myself, all of this trauma from my past, I'm thinking I won't be accepted. I'm not going to be the cool kid. They're going to make fun of me. Yeah. I'm going to be shunned.
And you were not that old.
No.
Compared to them.
No, at the time I was actually 20 and they were maybe 5 years younger than me. Yeah. So I really felt like, oh, here we go. I'm going to get tortured for all over again. But I felt like, okay, no one's going to say, no one wants these teens. No one wants these kids. So I went up there and met with them. I just sat with them. And that Sabbath, we just talked. We just got to know each other a little bit. I asked them, where they were from, what they liked, what they didn't like. just befriended them, didn't even have Sabbath school at that time. And they said, hey, would you come and join us again next Saturday? And I was like, okay. So they invited me to come back. And from that moment on, I found out again another purpose that I was, that God had made me for, or he had created me for. And that was to solve this problem. And maybe your church has this problem, but the problem that I was asked, that God asked me to solve, not just in this church, but churches and churches after that, was to always make sure that the youth had a place in the church where they felt wanted, loved, and with a purpose.
Yes.
And that your church, my church, always had youth in it. So here we started with this group, and they kind of were the ones who trained me. They were the ones who got me into wanting to be with youth and learning more about youth ministries. I loved it so much. And it became such a passion for me that when you went to seminary, I also got my master's in youth ministries.
Yes.
I didn't have to do that, but I loved it so much. And I wanted to know how to work with you so much in our ministry together at the church that I decided that I wanted to study that. And every church that we went to, whether we had 2 youth, 0 youth, 1 youth, or a big group of youth, I always made sure that it was not just a bunch of youth just getting together only for Sabbath school. I wanted them to know you are wanted here, you are loved here, and there is a purpose for you to be in this church. And I just started up youth ministries at every church that we went
Absolutely.
to. I felt that was one of the problems that God asked me to solve. So let me ask you, and Roger, I'm going to ask you in a minute too, but I'm going to ask you, what problem do you feel that God is asking you to solve? If you have an answer for that, I strongly believe that is God talking to you, letting you know that's part of your purpose. Mm-hmm. That is also part of your purpose. What problem is God asking you to solve? Roger, what problem has God asked you to solve? And as you've, gone through life and kind of, been looking for your purpose.
Yeah, I think one of the problems that God has asked me to solve is to look at dysfunction in church spaces and try to bring healthiness to that. Try to help us understand the gospel more fully, right? The problem of being so enamored with legalism that we don't see Jesus. That's a problem that God has asked me to solve. And I delight when I can help a couple, right?
Yeah.
Connect. And I write something that can encourage somebody. So through my writing, mm-hmm. God has helped me to help people.
Yes, correct.
He's helped me to help people. He's blessed me so I can be a blessing.
I love it. Thank you so much, Roger, for sharing that. So again, what problem is God asking you to solve? If you have an answer to that, I bet you that is also a direction that God is guiding you in to be able to find your purpose.
That's amazing. So we would like for you to interact with us. So what problem do you think you were created to solve? Write it down in the comment section.
Yeah, and I'd love to read those.
And
That'd be great.
We'll read them. We put some in the air. And thank you once again for connecting with us today. You're welcome always. In the community tab in our YouTube channel, there's a free book you can download that will help you in the spiritual growth in English and Spanish. It's completely free. It will take you to a place. It's like a shopping cart, but there's a coupon there, and it's completely free. You can access it for free. Thank you for being part of our virtual family. And remember that God is for you. Those who are against you are wasting their time. We'll see you next time on part number 4 of Discovering Your Purpose.